Hi and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, come right in. We've been waiting for you. And if you are a returning subscriber, you guys are the real OG. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right, so today we'll be picking up where we left off from last week, talking about how to get a driver's license in Canada and particularly Ontario. So last week we covered the G1 and basically all of the things that you need to do to get your G1 license. This week we're taking it a notch further. So if you are, the assumption is you have your G1 already. If you haven't had your G1 test or you want to find out how to get your G1, you can click that to catch up. Link is going to be in the description. I have a video that covers that in detail. If you have any questions, just drop in the comments and I will check and get back to you. So on to G2. Basically, your G1 license, it's nice, it's fine, it's great to have a license, but eventually you want to get a car yourself. You cannot get insurance with your G1, that's the first thing. And there are certain limitations to your G1 license that basically just makes it kind of hard to drive. One of the things is for you to drive with a G1 license, you need to have someone with a Fuji license and at least 4 years experience driving. Since we are basically working with the graduated licensing system, we are going to go through someone who's coming from a G1 license to a G2 license. If you do not have any driving history and you have a G1, then of course from my last week video you know that you have to do a G2 test, or what we call a G1 exit test. So that's your road test to get a G2 license. And part of the criteria for getting the G2 license is that one, you have to wait 1 year after getting your G1 before you can get your G2. Now, exceptions apply. Yeah, with that covered, in order to prepare for your G2 test, you need to work with the following restrictions, so that way it's better to, well, understand what you need to do before the day of the test. First is, you cannot drive with any level of alcohol in your body. So as a G2 driver, you're not allowed to have alcohol flowing through your system and drive. Your alcohol content must be 0 when driving either as a G1 or as a G2 driver. Now the next thing is, well, while prepping for your G2 test as a G1 driver, you must have an accompanying driver that has a Fuji license with over 4 years of experience and an alcohol level of 0.05%. Now remember, the alcohol level is for your accompanying driver, not for you. As a G1 and a G2 driver, no alcohol. You cannot sip your alcohol, no alcohol at all. Thank you very much. Now, also note that each person in the vehicle must have a working seat belt. So if there's no seat belt, then the person cannot be in the vehicle if you're driving as a G1 driver. You also cannot drive on a 400 series road there. So the 400 series road is basically the highway. You cannot drive on the highway unless you have a driving instructor with you. Now, a driving instructor is different from an accompanying driver. I need to point that out, right? A driving instructor is someone who is licensed to instruct, to teach, to coach, to mentor people on how to drive. You need to have a driving instructor for you to drive on a 400 series road as a G1 who is prepping to take the G2 test, the G2 road test, the G1 exit test. Finally, you cannot drive between midnight and 5 a.m. if you are with your G1. You need to know that. Quickly, I'll run through getting your Fuji license. And to get your Fuji license, I want to go through two scenarios. Now, scenario one is you have a G1 driver's license with experience. So you have over 2 years of experience and you have a G1 license. Of course, from my previous video, you would know that you do not need to take the G2 test. You can skip that and basically go straight to Fuji. And the second scenario is you are a G2 driver and you want to go for the Fuji license. A G2 driver who does not have any experience. Now, I would start with the second scenario. As a G2 driver who doesn't have any experience, you need to wait a whole year before you can take your Fuji test, your Fuji road test, or your G2 exit test. As a G1 driver with experience, you don't need to wait for anything. You can basically go from G1 straight to Fuji. If you fail your Fuji, you're downgraded back to G2. So as a G1 driver with experience, you can go straight from G1 to your Fuji. If you fail your Fuji, you get downgraded down to take the G2 test. And after you pass that G2 test, you just have to wait 24 hours to take your Fuji. Because remember, you have experience. Now fail, you fail, no kill person. So your experience still counts. And basically after getting your G2, you can move to take your Fuji. And I'm going to quickly run through all of the things that you need to either prep for a G2 test or a Fuji test. There's a lot of similarities. The major difference between the test is for your G2 test, there are certain things they aren't looking out for. So for your G2 test, you wouldn't be driving on the highway. For your Fuji, they want to see how you drive on the highway, right? It's really important because your Fuji is the highest level of license you can have, and you need to be an A-star driver to get that kind of license you get. So there's no highway. The examiners are a bit lenient on some of the things, so the points that you lose on some particular things kind of differ from how you are graded if you're taking the Fuji. Like one single serious mistake on your Fuji and you failed. For your G2, they're kind of a bit lenient, so long as it's not like you want to hit somebody. And there's some major things you need to look out for, like stop signs, like speed limits, like always making sure to give right of way to pedestrian, etc. Those kind of major things. So long as you're not flouting those rules, your Fuji shouldn't be too difficult to get. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be giving us some of the tips that you can use to prep for your G2 and your Fuji. Now, the first thing is practice, practice, practice. Like you need to practice, and you need to practice a lot. As someone who is moving from G1 to G2 without experience, you need to practice a lot. Every opportunity you get to drive, drive. So you're going out with family and friends who luckily have a Fuji. Beg them, plead with them to let you drive. So long as you're not going to be hitting the highway. Remember that to hit the highway, you need an instructor. You just don't need an accompanying driver. The other thing also is you want to do your research. Funny story, I didn't do any research when I came. I just basically randomly selected a drive test center, and then after I selected the center, I realized that the failure rate is pretty high. And I was like, nah, driving is driving, you can go anywhere to do it, you will pass. By the grace of God, I have to retake it again. So you want to do your research. You don't want to have to take it again. It's not nice. Some centers have a very high failure rate. You want to avoid those centers. You want to avoid centers that are in middle of town, downtown, well, very busy areas. You want to avoid centers in very busy areas. So if you can, Burlington, London, Lindsay, those kind of cool areas. Yeah, are very nice places to take a test. And finally, and well, not most important, but also very important, exaggerate. Everything you do, exaggerate. Your instructor, because I believe you're going to use an instructor, I'm just giving you this ahead for when you're practicing with family and friends and an accompanying driver. Your instructor will let you know to exaggerate your movements. So you want to look at your blind spot. Exaggerate those movements. Exaggerate. You're looking at the mirror. Let the examiner know you're looking at the mirror. Anything you're doing, let the examiner know. You want to exaggerate those movements. I used to think it was, it doesn't matter. But, well, it actually does. You need to exaggerate those movements. If there's anything you're going to take from this video, remember to always exaggerate. You are allowed to exaggerate for just this one time. Just this one time to pass your drive test. You need to exaggerate. Exaggerate those movements. Do that. Do this. Do this. As if you stole meat, or you steal something, or you stole the car and you're basically looking out for cops. So just keep exaggerating that movement. All of the movements you're making, exaggerated. So finally, I just want to run through or walk you through what you need to register for your road test. First, you need to go to drivetest.ca. I'll say that again, drivetest.ca. Recently, because of COVID, there's been like serious backlog, and so a lot of the centers are kind of really in a jam, and it's pretty difficult to get slots, especially in favorable centers, right? It's pretty difficult to get slots. Well, some instructors offer to help you get slots. It's not like they're doing anything special. You just need to know that. Basically, what it means is they are spending most of their time on drivetest.ca waiting and looking for slots to open up. Sometimes slots do get open, and so you want to spend a lot of time on drivetest.ca. Yeah, be stalking the website, like if there's any slots, so that you can get it, or you can use an instructor and pay extra. It's not that much. Yeah, once you get on the sites, you see an available slot, you click on it, or yeah, an available slot basically means an available date. You click on that date, it brings a pop-up to let you know the available time for that day. You pick it, you go through the process of paying, and then you are set for your test. Also, remember to have your driver's license handy when you're on drivetest.ca. You're going to provide your license number. You need it. Or you're going to provide lots of details on that, your license. You need it to, well, go through the registration process. Once that's done, you're set and you're good for your exam. You want to get there on the exam date 30 minutes at the very least, 30 minutes before your exam time. There's also going to be like another registration that you have to do in the drive test center, like parking, going inside to get a slot, etc, etc. Yeah, I missed this out. If you're using your instructor's car, get used to the car so that you will not disgrace yourself on exam day. Some of the cars that, well, a lot of the cars that the instructors use are kind of new and hybrid. And so if you're used to, you might get there and be shocked that, so where's the key? And so, yeah, so, well, you want to get used to your instructor's car. So you want to practice with his or her car so that you get used to driving with your instructor's car. Alright guys, I know that's a lot of information and a lot to digest, but eat it, digest it, use it, and you are on your way to getting your G2 or your Fuji license. So that's the end of this series. If you enjoyed it, if you did, smash the like button. If you did not, give me a feedback that you didn't enjoy it. Tell me what you didn't enjoy. If you want to see more of this kind of series, so let me know in the comments below. And I will see you next week, hopefully. Alright, so until then, adios.